What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Jake Peffer here. I'm joined by my co host and sister.
Christina Cunningham.
And today on Adventures in Theme Parking, we are going to be talking about Dinosaur, which is at Walt Disney World's Animal Kingdom in Orlando, Florida, in their Dino Land USA section. Now, this ride has a pretty interesting history because when it originally came out back in 1998, when Animal Kingdom actually opened, it was under a different name. It was actually called Countdown to Extinction. And then in the year 2000, they ended up kind of changing the title and changing up some of the ride aspects as well. They were tying it into the movie they had coming out at the same time called Dinosaur, which the character Aladar, the iguanodon, who is the essential part of the story of this ride and the movie, they wanted to tie it all in with that and everything. And there was apparently complaints about the ride being a little too scary for most kids and even some adults and a little too aggressive. So they downplayed some of that and changed up the ride a little bit. But I would go as far as to say it's still pretty scary and still pretty aggressive. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, very much so. So, uh, I got to ride it, back in January when I was there, and I knew nothing about the ride going into it, and so like I didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, it was definitely a little bit more than, or a little more like aggressive in a way. So or a little bit more than like rough than I initially thought it would be.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense ride. I mean, this is a you're in like a little car, and basically you're time traveling back to the time of the dinosaurs to bring back this iguanodon, like I said, named Aladar, who's from the movie. And basically you have to go through, weave in and out of all these different dinosaurs throughout. And the way the ride is set up is interesting because it's very dark, very pitch black throughout the majority of it. So anytime you come up on a dinosaur or an animatronic, you barely even know it's there till they kind of shine the light on it at the last second. So it's pretty intense, and the car ride itself is just so rickety and all over the place that you really don't know what's coming next. So it's actually a pretty solid thrill ride, I would say. This was a ride when I got to ride it last year when I went to Disney World. It was my first visit to Animal Kingdom. I'd never been before. And this was one of the ones I definitely wanted to ride because I remember when Animal Kingdom opened in 1998. I always wanted to go there. This, at that time, was kind of their big ride. And, over the years, obviously, they've added more. So this isn't one of the bigger draws, but I would say it's still a very enjoyable ride. It's got a lot going for it. It's got a nice setup. The pre-show is pretty nice. All the queue and everything is set up well. You almost kind of have like a dinosaur museum to a degree, kind of when you're going through. And then, like I said, the pre-shows not too bad. You have Felicia Rashad, of all people, who's kind of like the main character in the pre-show, walking you through what you're about to go through. So it's interesting. I like when they bring in like character actors to do that kind of stuff. So it's all pretty interesting. And I enjoyed it myself. How do you feel about the ride, Sam?
Yeah, I have pretty similar thoughts because, like, kind of like what you're saying. Like, I don't know why, but I always love like seeing how the queues are for certain rides, and so I always
Yeah.
like to, because some rides, or I guess kind of depending on where you are, like they go into so much like detail and everything, and so I feel like especially if the wait happens to be long, I feel like the queue happens to be kind of good to be able to kind of look around at different things, and and like what you were mentioning earlier, like it was a lot darker than I thought it would be, like on the ride, because like obviously knew it was going to be like a dark ride since it's inside, but like it that I think that kind of that and the fact that it was a little bit more rough than I was like expecting, it kind of threw me off, but um other than that, I think it's, like you said, it's a pretty solid ride. Like, uh, I think this, even though I didn't really know anything about the ride or the movie itself, like I feel like the pre-show kind of did good at like kind of explaining everything and kind of like I guess giving you enough information to kind of where you would understand kind of what's all happening if you had like no prior like knowledge of any of what had to do with the ride, so and I just like the whole area in general, kind of like around the ride as well. So like if you have like little ones who might not want to be on something that's a little bit more like rough on the rough side, like there's at least some pretty interesting stuff kind of around for like those who might not want something that's like I guess that thrilling in a way.
Yeah, that's true. This is definitely kind of the more kiddie area of the park. It's also one of the weirder parts of the park. It doesn't really fit with everything else. I mean, yeah, it's animals to a degree, but it's dinosaurs. So it is kind of an odd area. And I know there's been talk recently about this area possibly getting turned into something else. Honestly, I wouldn't hate it, but I would like to see this ride somehow stay if possible, but I'm sure it wouldn't. I'm sure it would either get rethemed to something else or, just demolished and completely turned into a new ride. But kind of going off something you had said, yeah, it's interesting that they set this up in a way where you don't really have to be all that familiar with the movie to really get an idea what you're going to get into for the ride. That movie, when it came out at the time, was kind of it was a big deal just because the technology they were using for the animation was something different that we hadn't seen before. And it's a pretty okay movie. It's nothing great by any means, and I think it actually did pretty well at the box office when it came out. So it's one of the more forgotten Disney movies, I would say. But like it's on Disney Plus, you can check it out and everything if you've never seen it. But I remember liking it when I went to the theater, saw it, and honestly, we may have went to see it in the theater with our parents back in the day. 'Cause I would have only been about 9 or 10 when it came out. So I'm sure you probably tagged along
Yeah,
with us
well,
as well.
yeah,
But it's yeah,
oh, well, that's what I most likely did. If we did, I don't remember it. So
yeah. Well, like I said, it's kind of a forgettable movie, but it's pretty good. When you watch it now, the effects aren't as good. But it was supposed to be like this
like,
thing where it was 3D animation, but it was supposed to look more realistic in a way, almost kind of like what they did with that newer Lion King, where it was all like photo realistic. But this was in
uh,
2000, so obviously it didn't look
yeah,
nearly as authentic. And you're talking about animals that aren't alive anymore, so it's kind of hard to be super photorealistic with something that doesn't exist. Uh, but yeah,
just not anytime recently. So
yeah, exactly. But the ride itself, Dinosaur, I think is a fun ride. It's very thrilling, like I said. It is scary at times, and it's not what you would expect. If you watch any like ride through videos or anything, it definitely won't do it justice because all you're seeing is just kind of the reaction shots of all the animatronics and everything. You don't get a real feel for the actual car ride itself, and that's what I would say is the best aspect of this ride is just how crazy that car ride is because you're getting thrown all over the place. And then just you never know what's going to come up next because of how dark it is in there. It's just so incredibly dark that you just have no idea what's coming next. So for me, on our thrill rating, I would probably go about a 3.5 out of 5 on this one. I think it works well. It's a fun, dark ride that has some cool elements that ties in really well with a movie that at this point is mostly forgotten, but still might interest people if they, find out, hey, this is actually based on a movie. Maybe we'll go check it out now. But anyways, what do you rate it?
um well, one thing I was thinking about was like, the day before I wrote this, I was at Epcot, and it kind of reminds me of Test Track a little bit, just because it's
Yeah, a
like,
little bit.
just because it's like, I guess because like being like kind of thrown around a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of on the same boat. I probably would say maybe like about a 3 out of 5 for thrill, just because like I think it's a good concept and everything like that, but it's just like, you know, I just feel like if you're not really familiar with it, or you're not really like good with when it comes to like jerking movements and all that, it might not be the greatest for some people. So but if you're a thrill seeker and all that, I feel like it would be kind of like right up your alley.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've ever done like a refurbishment in the last so many years on this, but it's one that probably could use refurbishment just to maybe
Yeah.
touch up some of the mechanics on the ride because I know it's supposed to be kind of a rough ride, but it feels a little too rough at certain
Yeah.
times for sure. That's going to do it from us here at Adventures in Theme Parking. If you have ridden Dinosaur or even rode it when it was called Countdown to Extinction, please let us know in the comments what you thought of it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more ride reviews every Monday and when we can make it out to parks, park tours, and videos. I'll leave all our links down below on where you can follow us. And yeah, stay tuned for more reviews, guys. We'll catch you all next time.
Peace.